I think it was probably about 1997, and it was Carol. We were sitting in the back of a car travelling to an event together, and she mentioned this place, Freshwinds. And since when I was training as a homeopath, I always believed that people should, wherever possible, be able to have access to complementary, alternative or integrative medicine, depending upon how you like to what sort of terminology you like to use. And this seemed an ideal. It had the right philosophy and an ideal vehicle for being able to allow great access for the public. Mohammed interviewed me.
And what was that like, and what were your first impressions of Mohammed?
Intimidating is the word that springs to mind. Intimidating not because it was Mohammed, intimidating having an interview when there was something that you were driven by a passion and not by an intellect. So if you didn't achieve it, it's more crushing if you're driven by passion and an intellectual drive. I suppose just because you believed you were doing what you wanted to, it was part of a wish list, a part of a philosophy you believed in, an ideology that some of us had when we were training as trainee homeopaths. And this was a way that made it very easy for me to be able to follow that ideology, because you don't always get that sort of opportunity in your life to follow an ideology. It was definitely unique. The concept and its philosophy was unique. I can't think of it because there were hospices around to deal with people who were chronically and critically ill, but they didn't offer the same service and the same sphere of how they helped somebody that Freshwinds was able to facilitate, and where their philosophy came from. Because complementary medicine is about treating the whole, and we extended that whole into people's actual living. So was their social well-being, their livelihood, their residence, because a lot of people, when they become ill, they lose their practical ability to survive, which is their housing, finances and things like that. And Freshwinds also had the ability to start assisting with that sort of, or steering them on the right path and being supportive in that area, as well as their general health and well-being. So it was unique. A challenge always brings an opportunity to either improve or to review what you do, and therefore, it tends to take you to the next level. And it gives you a chance to reflect on whether you are doing the right things or not, or if there's ways to improve it. So yes, there have been challenging times, but they've always proved to be opportunities that have had worthwhile outcomes. I kind of think something like this should survive and grow and lead, so it's more important that it develops, I think, than myself. Yes, there are opportunities that you get on to develop because of the sort of client that you see, so therefore the sort of different health conditions you deal with. So from that point of view, from a professional point of view, you get to grow, because you see conditions here and people that you probably would never see in a private practice for a complementary alternative therapist. And for me it's ideal because it dovetails in with my other hat, because I'm actually a radiographer as well, a diagnostic radiographer. So for me it complements my intellect and my passion by having the two career paths, as it were. In a nutshell, it doesn't matter how you frame the question. For me, I just think it's important that there is a place, a refuge, an institution, call it what you will, that has the philosophy and the capacity to support the people who require the type of support that we can do, that it survives. And it's very difficult in the culture we live in these days, and the adversity you have, just the economic adversities, that this place carries on and survives and wins through. And so that's what I think the great thing is. And we've gone from strength to strength, and we carry on doing that, which to me I think is a great testament to probably Mohammed's courage, really, to stick with it. Which makes him, among other things, a great leader. Because it's been hard work, a lot of sacrifice. And therefore, when you see someone put that much investment, and it's personal investment into it, it deserves, the honesty and the integrity of an institute such as this deserves to survive. I think we will grow so we become a greater social base as well, supporting people in their socio-economic needs, and not just in their health needs. And I think that's really where the growth is. So it almost becomes like a mini community support. I mean, we've gone into employment and so much as training and things like this. We do debt advice, and we do a lot of support in the community to help people with their social needs. And I think this is going to become another area for expansion. Not forgetting integrative medicine, which is where we came from originally. That's the cornerstone that this organisation was built on, this charity was built on. And we're looking at ways of growing that and taking that further into the community, so it becomes, and into culture itself, so it becomes considered more mainstream as opposed still on the edge of. And so that's the sort of thing. And looking for breakthroughs and new ways of being able to help people. That's quite exciting, because we still look at that avenue as well. Unfortunately, you always need a certain amount of funding, because with funding, to get to where we want to do, we have to do a lot of research. Our research, particularly when you're looking at integrative medicine, needs to be follow the protocol that you would find in any conventional mainstream medical sort of research program. That requires funds. There's no way around that. In a time where you've got such of economic constraints, it's very difficult to find the funding. So with anything, it always comes down, the first thing you've got to do is look for funding. Then once you get that, it'll probably be limited, so you have to be creative with how you use it. But that's always one of the things we need. And then just the support and input and contribution of some very, very solid volunteers and solid staff members. Because without those, we need their support just to get through each day. The rest is the icing on the cake. If you want something to survive, you can't just be woolly about it and stand on the outside and say, oh, that's nice, they do such good work in there, you know, would it be nice if they survive and support us all? You know, you either put your money where your mouth is and you walk the talk. Hard or light, you know, or easy or difficult, you walk the talk, otherwise you just don't talk the talk, because it's just hot air at the end of the day, isn't it? There is a patient, a client of Freshwinds, who's been, I think, with Freshwinds since almost the off. And if you listen to that person, they always remember what Mohammed did for them. Now, I don't think he's worked as a therapist for years, certainly almost as long as I've been with Freshwinds. And so there is an inspiration, particularly for those people who have had some personal contact with them. He is remembered. He is remarkable with what he does. And he is devoted to the cause. For me, it was just the excitement that somebody else, and this was Mohammed obviously when I first heard about Freshwinds, had the vision of being able to allow access to people to have some other form of medicine, as it were. And we're not really supposed to call it medicine because mainstream won't like it, but some other form of support for health issues. And that was really important, because having worked in the hospitals for years and years and years and worked with very critically ill patients, medicine can only go so far. And one thing that alternative medicine can do really well is to improve quality. If it can't give quality of life, and not even medicine can necessarily do that, what Freshwinds can do, and does very well, is to provide improved quality, or make the quality of that person's life the best it can be, max its potential.